See you later. Yeah, cheers. I don't know about you, but I love being on holiday. I've got everything I need here. The beer is cold, the peanuts are complimentary. In fact, they were just saying how much they like my shirt. The only thing that's missing is my IC-7300, which I've left back in Cornwall. I thought, of course, about bringing it with me on holiday, but that means you've got to put it in the suitcase, you've got to get it through customs, and then you've got to persuade the hotel to let you put up an aerial. It's a real hassle. But there is a way you can still operate HF while you're away. That is, A, you've got your laptop with you, which I have, and B, if you've got the right software from Icom to remotely control the IC-7300. But I was also intrigued at the idea that with the Icom remote control software, I could actually go almost anywhere in the world where there's an internet connection and drive my home rig and have QSOs from that remote location. So if you fancy trying that, what kit do you need? Well, the first thing you're going to need is the Icom remote control software. So this is what drops through your letterbox, and inside, first of all, quite a few instructions. You're going to need those. So I know the temptation as a radio amateur is to chuck those to one side and go, we'll look at those later. Trust me, that won't work this time. So what you've got here on your disk, this is the actual original software, which is going to install two things on your computer. One of them is the remote control software, which through the USB connection will control the functions of your radio. And the other bit of software is server software, and this installs a server on this computer, which if you're accessing the radio remotely, it'll be the server that connects to a remote computer. Sounds complicated, but hopefully if you follow the instructions, we'll go through it step by step now, you should be able to make the installation without any major obstacles. In fact, a lot of the obstacles that people have hit when trying to install this software are to do with the usual quirks of Windows and other operating systems and forgetting certain things you need to do before you start. There are 3 pages of instructions that come in the box, and you are going to need those. In fact, I'd advise reading through them fairly carefully before you start. Also in the box is this USB A to B lead, and they do suggest that you use the one that comes with the software to make sure that it all works properly. And that's actually the first boulder that you're going to run into in this installation, because if you're using an earlier version of Windows, that's fine. If you installed it and you're the first user, then you're probably the administrator as well, and you need administrator's rights to install this software and to install the driver. But on Windows 10, the proper administrator's account is not automatically activated when you install Windows. So you actually have to go in through the prompt and do that. So we'll just do that very quickly. I'll show you how that works. It's very straightforward. We just right click on the Windows symbol at the bottom left hand side here, and we go into the command prompt. Actually, you can see I've already set the administrator account up on this one, but you have to go into the command prompt, and then you have to type these magic words: net user administrator /active yes. And that will activate your administrator's account on Windows 10. And then we're laughing because once we set up a password and everything, you can log in as the administrator proper, and then you'll be able to install the rest of the software. If you don't do that, you're going to run into some terrible problems. Right, so the next thing we need to do is install the software itself, and there's 2 important pieces of software other than the driver on this disk, and those are, first of all, the remote control software, and that's how we're going to actually control the radio through the computer. But secondly, there's server software, which will set this machine up as a server so that when I'm in a remote location, it will be the server here that we dial into to connect to the radio. Sounds complicated? Well, that's because it is, but once we go through the setup, I'm sure you'll get the hang of it. So here's the driver file that we needed to install to get the computer to talk to the radio. So I've done that already. Next we get to the software proper. And we're just going to click on this and click on setup. And everything should happen smoothly and as if by magic from here. So we click on our language, which is English. For a username, I'll put my name. And as the company name, I don't think it's obligatory to put something in there, but I shall put my call sign. Right, now it's asking us for the product key and license key. Those are on the front of the case that the software came in. So we'll just type those in. That's it. So we've finished installing the version of the software that came in the box, but now we just need to check for an update. So I'm going to go to the Icom website and just have a look on their firmware updates. Actually, you'll find these on the Icom Japan website is the best place to look. So that's icom.co.jp, and you will find a list of firmware updates, software downloads, and if we scroll at a great pace down those, we will find the ones that we are looking for down here. The RS-BA1 updates, and the most recent version is version 193, so we'll download that. Then when the zip file's finished downloading, we're just going to follow the instructions in it, which will update our version of the software to the latest. And if you don't do that, you will find that it doesn't recognize your IC-7300. That was quite a big file, so it downloaded it as a zip file, so we'll just open that now, double click on that, and it's the update that we want. So we click on the update, and as it's a zip file, it's asking us to extract it all. So we will do that, extract it into the same folder. Biff, there we go. So now when we double click on it and click on update, it should actually happen this time. There we go. So we now have installed the latest version of the software, the 1.93 version, which, as I said, comes in two parts. So part one is the remote control up here, and the other part is the server part of it, the remote control utility. And this is where having a good look at our instructions is going to come in handy, because now we have to put in the various settings that we want to make both those pieces of software work. Before we go any further, it'll be useful to make sure the drivers have installed. The first driver we installed was the actual bridge between the computer and the radio. The second driver that installed during that software installation was the one that will use the radio's internal sound card for all the clever stuff you want to do. So we've got to make sure that it's there. And so to find it, if we just go on Windows 10 into Windows settings, and we can just put a sneaky easy search by putting hardware in there, into Device Manager, and look down the list in Device Manager till you get to Sound, Video and Game Controllers. Click on that and just check you can see Icom Virtual Audio Driver in the list. It's there, so that's fine. If for some reason it hasn't installed, then you can go back to the disk and just install those separately and make sure that you've got those there before you go any further. The first bit of software we're going to configure then is our remote utility. That's this one, so we'll click on that. And before it properly opens up, it gives us this little dialog box here. Please set your own PC information. Okay, we will. So the PC name, well, this one is called Backup PC. Don't ask why, it just is. And then the internet access type you have to set next. Well, for us, that's ADSL or CATV. And apply. And it takes effect after restarting the application. Okay. So now we restart the remote utility, and we'll get a different screen this time. And we click on Server Setting, Radio Lists. That's the first thing we're going to do. Then we click on Add, because we're adding a radio. So the radio's name, IC-7300, and the CIV address. Now this is the first point at which you might go, what? CIV address? What does that mean? Well, you will find that actually in the radio itself. So to find the CIV address, we're actually going to look in the radio. So we click on Menu and we click on Set. Now the first thing we have to do, we're going to Connectors, and just before we go into the CIV bit, you'll see underneath it says USB serial function. We'll click on that, and you have two options, RTTY decode or CIV. Make sure it is set on CIV before you go any further, otherwise you'll be on a hiding to nothing. Then we go into CIV itself. If we click on that, we get another little menu come up, one of the options of which is CIV address, and you'll see there it is, 7CH. So in this box here where it's asking for the CIV address, we're going to put 7C because it doesn't let us put another character in there, so just 7C, although the address displayed on the radio was 7CH. We're going to click on that, that's public, and we leave the COM port setting on auto. And for the baud rate, we're going to set that at the fastest. And the reason for that is that if you don't have it on the fastest rate, it won't display the waterfall properly. So you set it on 115/200, and then we also have to set that up on the radio. So how do we get it to do the fastest baud rate? Well, there's a few clicks that we've got to do here. And that is, in order for the waterfall to work properly, you need to have a baud rate setting that appears to be faster than those that are offered to you in the menu. Well, to ensure that you can get that baud rate setting, step down from CIV address until you get to CIV USB port, and you tap on that one and make sure it's highlighted as unlink from remote. If it's highlighted as link to remote, change it to unlink from remote, and then that will allow you to have a faster baud rate setting, and we want the fastest one, which is 115/200. So we've now set up a radio in the remote utility, and we've set up all the specifications we need for that. So next we're going to set up a user. So you click on the tab user list. So the user ID, that is going to be me, I think. I'm just going to put my call sign in there. And we have to put a password with it as well. So don't look while I'm typing my password in. And that's the administrator as well. So we add that, and it's that radio we want to register, and we've done it. For the purposes of just driving the radio from the computer and being able to see the waterfall display, we're nearly there. So what we do now is we go to the remote control itself and open that. And without switching it on, because when you press the on button up there, you will connect to the radio, but we're not ready to do that yet because we just have to go into option here, connect settings, and we've just got to find our radio under the model section here. So it's an IC-7300. Our connection is a USB connection, remote utility not use. The COM port, I remember from when we were setting up the server that it was actually on COM port 4. So we'll do that. Our baud rate is going to be that higher one that we set earlier. We've got the CIV address in there, 7C. And just put a tick in here, software closing turns off the radio if that's what you want it to do. You know, so when you switch off the software, the radio goes to bed. So we click OK. Right, now we arrive at the moment of truth. What happens when we press this connect button here? Well, with luck, we will connect the computer to the radio over here, and let's see what happens. And there we are, bingo, same frequency displayed. So we're seeing on our screen on the computer what we're seeing here. And I can click the scope here, and the waterfall scope appears on my computer screen, and it also appeared on the radio. And you remember we ticked the box that said when we close the software, the radio turns off, and just to prove that, let's disconnect. Radio gone. Connect. And the radio's back again. We now have complete control of the radio from this screen here, so we can change the band just by clicking on the appropriate band here. So if we go into 40 meters, we're actually hearing the audio from the radio via the radio itself because I'm sat right next to it. So that's the obvious way to do that. And we can adjust the filters. We can tune by using the tuning knob here. And that's just by right-clicking your mouse to the right of it or left-clicking your mouse to the left of it to tune up and down. And we can click anywhere on the waterfall here to change frequency. And that's quite useful because when we get to the next bit, which is actually accessing the radio remotely, as long as we leave the power supply switched on, we can actually go away with the radio switched off and switch it on remotely. The next thing we want to do then is configure this laptop so I can take it anywhere and connect remotely via the internet to the computer there and to the radio. So there's a couple of things we're going to have to do, and the first of those is to configure our router so that it will allow the software to pass the messages it needs to do. Otherwise they will be stopped by the router's firewall. Now this is one of those moments where people get a little bit nervous, but it's quite straightforward. I've got a Sky router, so I've set mine up by going into security and then going into firewall rules and allowing outbound and inbound messages from the Icom software. What you'll need to do is Google, other search engines are available, the details for your particular router so that you know how to set up those port forwarding settings, because without those this won't work. Once you've done that, the other useful thing that you need to know from your router is what your IP address is. If you're one of those people who has a fixed IP address, great, because it's not going to change. For the rest of you, as you're setting up for the configuration, you're going to need the IP address of your router. For a Sky Hub, you can find that just by going down to the connection status, and up pops all the details of my connection, including the current IPv4 IP address. So there we are. And the thing is, because most routers are connected with dynamic IP, that means if it disconnects from your internet provider and then reconnects, it'll have a different IP address next time. So we need to find a way of coping with that in case that is a reason you can't connect, because the address has changed between you setting it up and you getting to your hotel in Guatemala. To make sure I can always connect to my home PC when I'm away without any IP issues, I use a handy program called TeamViewer. It's free for personal use, and it means you can drive your PC desktop remotely from anywhere without fuss. Other similar software is available, but by setting this up on your PC, if the Icom remote software won't connect, you can dial into your home machine and check the settings, including any IP address changes. Of course, this will only work if you remember to leave the home machine switched on. So we've got the same software that we installed on the shack computer, the remote utility software, and if we open that up, now I've already configured this, but I'll show you the configurations I made. So the first thing we do is we go to radio operations server list. This is setting it up so that we can connect to our server back in the shack, and so we need to look at the properties of that. It's actually connected itself there as I'd opened it because it's all set up correctly. But if I just go into the properties, you can see it's got the server description. That's just the name of the radio as I gave it to the shack computer. That IP address that we just got from our router, that's our external IP address. The user ID, which is the same user ID I put on the shack computer, which was my call sign, and the password. So that's all ready to go. And then that would, if you just put it in for the first time, you would click connect and it would connect, but mine, as it's already set up, has connected itself. So we now go to the radio list tab and we click on that and we click on settings. And for this top bit here, just accept the recommended settings. You don't need to do anything here. In the COM port, we're going to put the COM port number that we set up over there. So we know it's connecting on COM port 4. So that's the COM port on our shack computer. Then AF output device and input device for modulation. Well, whatever those happen to be. At the moment, the laptop's here in the shack still with me, and it's connected to this external mixer here, which is a USB mixer. So I've selected that as the AF output device and as the input device. We save that and click connect. And look at that, we can hear audio, which is a good sign, which means it has connected. And this isn't just through my local network, this is connecting through the net. And then if we go to the remote control software itself and click on that, we can see everything is working. Let's just check. Yep, we can change bands and we can tune it. There, so we're all set up, we're ready to go. On my next trip away, I can take the laptop with me and I'll be able to have, hopefully, some QSOs from a distance. Do you know what? I think it's time to put down the beer temporarily and do a little bit of holiday HF operating. We've got the remote utility software installed. We did that before we came away. And we've got the remote control software installed. We did that before we came away and configured it all. Something else that we need to do before we come away is, first of all, make sure the power supply for the IC-7300 is switched on, so the radio has power, and also that the shack computer is switched on that we're using as a server, and that on that computer the remote utility software is open and running, and then we should, from here, be able to connect to it. So we open the remote utility first of all, and we go first of all to the server list, highlight the server, and hopefully it connects, which it did. It tells us, it's saying connecting, which is something that this software does that does confuse you, is it says connecting when it has in fact already connected. So don't sit there waiting for it to change to connected, because it won't. Connecting means it's there, and you can see it's giving you some times and packet loss information here, so you know it's connected. Then you go to radio list, highlight your radio and click connect. We can hear audio. So that's the radio back home in Cornwall. We're connected to it, and now once we've done that bit, we can open the remote control software, and there it is, 20 meters coming through loud and clear from Cornwall. And if we want to switch the radio off, we can, and when I do that, disconnect, it's actually switching the radio off in Cornwall, but of course because we've got the power supply on, we can easily switch it back on again and it should all just reappear. There we are. One thing that's a little bit fiddly with this is the tuning knob on here, because to tune up in frequency you've got to right click, to tune down you've got to left click, or you could just highlight something in the waterfall and click on it and tune into it that way. But wouldn't it be better if you had a tuning knob just like you do on the radio back home? Well, Icom cunningly have thought of that, which is why they make this, the RC28 remote encoder is its posh name, but I just call it a tuning knob. And it's a very heavy piece of kit actually. I don't know what they've got in it to weigh it down, but it's what you need when you put it on the desktop. So we just plug this into an available USB socket. So now we have got full control of the radio, just like we would if we were sat at home, with a proper tuning knob, so we can tune up and down really easily. We can adjust the coarseness of the tuning rate, so we can set it very fine or we can set it very coarse, so that we can whiz through the band. And we've even got push to talk for transmit. Right, let's have a listen and see what we can actually hear. There's not much happening on 14 megs at the moment, so let's change bands to 40 meters and see if we can hear any signals coming through there. Let's turn it up a little bit so you can hear it. Pretty good quality audio there, isn't it? And we can hear that station, G station there, working on 40 meters. I think one of the great things to do with this actually would be to go on holiday and then turn up on your local 80-meter net when they think you're away. That would really confuse them. Right, let's try a CQ call. We'll just make sure we've got modulation audio. So we'll click on the remote utility, just open that screen again on the radio list, and we can see that as I'm speaking, the green light is going up nicely on the mod. So we have mod. So if we can find ourselves an empty frequency. There we go. That sounds like an empty frequency. Is this frequency in use, please? Is this frequency in use? This is Golf 0 Foxtrot Golf X-ray. Sounds clear. Let's give it a go. Hello CQ, hello CQ, CQ. This is Golf 0 Foxtrot Golf X-ray. G0FGX Golf 0 Foxtrot Golf X-ray. Operating my station remotely. The station is located in Cornwall in southwest England. This is Golf 0 Foxtrot Golf X-ray, calling CQ40 and listening. Nothing. Oh well, we'll have another sip of beer and a tune around. Golf 0 Foxtrot Germany X-ray calling. Thank you very much indeed. We're operating the rig remotely at the moment using the IC-7300, accessing it remotely through the internet. So a pleasure to work here at 73s. Yeah, I'll just turn him down a minute there. So there we go, we did it. Holiday style operating with a beer in hand, and you can do this from literally anywhere, connecting with your laptop back to your home station. Now that's fun.